Hey, good morning. Patricia Murphy here. It's Saturday. This is Seattle Now. Today we're bringing you the best from the KUOW newsroom. It's graduation time for students across the state. Some are from families with mixed immigration status whose lives recently changed as a result of ramped-up immigration enforcement. Gustavo Sagrero revisits a high school senior near Bellingham whose dad came to the U.S. without authorization about 20 years ago and was deported soon after President Donald Trump returned to the White House. Here's Gustavo.
The band of Mount Baker High School warms up a crowd here to watch around 40 students graduate, the class of 2025. The celebration is held on the football field in Deming with a clear mountain view. A banner shows off students' portraits, and right near the center is one for Alex Guerrero Villatoro. He's got dark curly hair and a close smile.
I didn't think it'd be like this, but it feels amazing. It genuinely feels amazing.
That's him thinking about this big milestone. The crowd cheers as the students parade to their seats. Alex looks to the bleachers for his friends and family. He's marked off about 15 feet of the bleachers just for them. As he walks by, a family friend calls out to him. But his bleacher has only a few people there, mostly friends. His older brother is his only immediate family member on the bench. Alex's mom, dad, and 3 younger siblings instead watch from almost 3,000 miles away in Guatemala. The older brother is holding a phone and live streaming video for them. It's not a stable connection, so they can't hear the crowd. They're not here in Deming because immigration agents arrested Alex's dad outside of a church in January, and his mom decided to self-deport to Guatemala with his 3 younger siblings. It's part of the ramped-up immigration enforcement under President Donald Trump, leaving Alex with empty seats at graduation as they announced his name.
Alexander Guerrero Villatoro. Alex is trained to become a real estate agent. He will complete his training by the end of this year. He would like to thank family and God for the support. Alexander Guerrero Villatoro.
Alex was born here. He's a U.S. citizen. Now he'll step into adulthood mostly on his own. He's already gotten some mentorship from realtor groups in the area who've heard his story. He says it took a lot to get to graduation. After his parents left, he dropped some classes and finished school online. That freed up some time to take a warehouse job. The money he earns is partly for his family so he can help them resettle and for him to someday visit them. This day is a relief.
It's like I work every day, and usually that gets me tired every day. That's what helps me go to sleep. But this feels like rest. Yeah. Like serenity. Yeah. Calmness. Because it was a lot to get here.
Around the region, there are many young people like Alex, children who had moms or dads recently arrested by ICE and often deported. At least 40 families are estimated to have been separated by immigration enforcement since the beginning of this year. Most are a result of a raid at a roofing company. Others are individual deportations, like with Alex's dad. Advocates are worried about the lasting mental health impacts, including for young men as a result of their father figures being taken away. Back at graduation, Alex's soccer coach, Mike Barksdale, was among a drifting crowd of church friends and uncles who came to celebrate. Alex would have been a captain this year if he hadn't needed to start working once his parents were gone. Barksdale and Alex would sometimes talk about what he was going through.
He was open with those things too, which I think is good. It shows his willingness to not only persevere on his own, but to have that community around him to help him when he needed it.
After the ceremony, Alex was able to get back in touch with his family in Guatemala. That's Armando Cha, his father. He says it's a special moment in his son's life. But the painful truth is, we aren't there, and we feel that deeply, he says. Alex isn't entirely sure when he's going to see his parents in person again, but he's going to make the effort to try soon, especially to see his younger siblings.
They mean the whole world to me, and I so wish they were present right now.
For most seniors, graduation night is a time to party, but Alex is just planning on a quiet dinner with his brother. He's got to get to bed so he'll be up and ready for work in the morning. From Mount Baker High School, I'm Gustavo Sagrero, KUOW News.
A day health center for disabled adults in Snohomish County is closing this summer. It's the last facility of its kind in the entire county. Olympia correspondent Jeannie Lindsay reports that a big part of the problem is a lack of state funding that doesn't show any signs of improving.
Rachel Homey is mostly blind and has a mental disability. She's been coming to the Full Life Care Center in Everett for the past year or so. She still has purple and blue paint on her hands from today's finger painting session. She likes the different activities they offer here, some more than others.
There's one activity I've never really cared for, but it made it okay, and that's bingo. Just because you have to see to do it, so it's kind of like...
She says with the staff acting as an extra set of eyes, she's warmed up to bingo a little. Homey is one of more than 100 adults with disabilities who come to this center for several hours a day each week. Programming includes social activities like bingo, trivia, and painting, as well as a menu of health services like skilled nursing and occupational therapy. But after operating for more than 2 decades, the center is now slated to close in July. What's running through your mind when you hear that?
I'm really sad because, it's the only place I have to go.
A statement from management of the center blames the closure on inadequate funding from the state. Cuts in the state budget this year haven't helped. The closure in Everett is new, but the problem has been growing for years. 8 similar centers across the state have closed since 2018, according to staff from Full Life. And after this one closes, Snohomish County won't have any others like it, according to state officials. Less than a dozen will be left statewide. Susan Worthington with the Washington Department of Social and Health Services says the COVID pandemic spurred some of those closures. Volunteers stopped coming, donations dried up, and things got more expensive.
COVID just really put the stopper on this whole thing, and they haven't recovered, honestly, from that.
But providers of these services say the problem largely centers around unequal funding across counties, combined with years of stagnant Medicaid funding. Advocates say running these services in Snohomish County costs more than in King County. State lawmakers boosted funding for adult day health centers last year, but not as much as advocates had hoped. And lawmakers didn't increase Medicaid funding for these facilities at all this year as they wrangled a multi-billion-dollar budget gap.
It was very challenging to give increases this year when we needed to, reduce the overall budget by billions of dollars.
That's Senator June Robinson. She represents the district where the center is closing and chairs the state Senate's powerful budget committee. She's sad to see the center shut down, but she's not sure when the state might be in a position to provide additional Medicaid increases.
I just can't say. I don't know what our budget situation is going to be a year or 2 years from now. We are certainly moving into a time of less money being available.
Making matters more uncertain, the federal government is considering making major changes to Medicaid. It's unclear at the moment if those changes would impact these services. For now, staff at the center in Everett are trying to find any option they can to prevent the closure, though that's a tall order. Management says they're ending the center's operations July 19th. So people like Rachel Homey have few options ahead.
I'm not able to get out because of my disabilities, so I'm not sure what's going to happen next.
She'll have to decide to either travel for hours to try to access these same services and activities farther away, or just stay home. I'm Jeannie Lindsay, reporting from Everett.
Our last feature today is a story about memory loss, but it's not a bummer. In fact, it's actually about comedy. It's about a theater program in Washington state where people with early-stage memory loss learn basic improv. Kyle Norris reports the results are remarkable, not only for the students, but for their caregivers and the class instructors as well.
If you've ever taken an improv class, they make you do some goofy stuff, like communicate with sounds and not words. and play improv games, which can lead to all kinds of unique situations, like this one, where someone is selling something that nobody seems to want.
I brought some fish. I have dried fish, I have fresh fish, I have some not so fresh fish. Could I maybe convince you to...
Bribe me? Yes.
I'm bribing. I'm openly bribing you with my...
10 people sit in a circle on a bare stage at the Upfront Theater in Bellingham. This particular improv class is special. In fact, there aren't many like it in the country. That's because this class was created for students who have early-stage memory loss. For them, improv is a rare chance to be creative and playful and not be defined by their memory issues. Many of these students are brand new to improv.
So I assume that folks might be a little bit nervous about what they're walking into, especially if they've never been to class before.
That's instructor Sammy Jolly. She starts off class by explaining Improv 101.
I tell people that we are going to be silly, we're going to have fun, we're going to connect, and most importantly, we're going to say yes to whatever idea people have, whatever they have to contribute.
Saying yes to whatever idea someone throws out there is the classic rule of improv. To warm them up, Sammy says she has everyone circle up and practice yes statements.
We go around and say, Kyle, say any statement you want to. It could be real or made up, and we're just going to shout yes after it. So what's a statement?
I'm addicted to Jolly Ranchers.
Yes, and everybody shouts yes, just to start the class with that feeling in the room to take all the anxiety away. Whatever you say today, we're going to enthusiastically accept it.
Ryan Elbacton de Gaulier is a class regular. She was the improv actor who earlier was trying to bribe another student with fish. Ryan says for her, class is all about being silly, and that gives her a sense of freedom because nothing she says or does here is wrong.
You know, blurting out a silly word or making a funny face at somebody sitting next to you who you've never been properly introduced to necessarily.
Ryan stumbled upon this class when she was looking for gentle activities she could do to stay active, because Ryan has a brain injury that causes neurological issues. The ongoing journey of her brain injury has been heavy. It's impacted her entire life, including her memory, speech, and movement. So the silliness of this improv class offers a lightness to all of that. She felt the lightness immediately after her first class, half a year ago.
Humor has been a huge part of finding my way out of the grief of what I've lost and the changes that have occurred in my identity.
Ryan says in this class there is zero judgment from anyone if her symptoms flare up, like if Ryan slurs her speech or completely forgets what she was saying mid-sentence in the middle of an improv game.
Sometimes that happens. Sometimes people start to say something and then they're just blank. And you know what? Everybody just goes, yep. And we just, incorporate it or move on.
She says people here can show up exactly as they are, and it's fine. Another student, Rosh Doan, appreciates how class is all about the present moment. He's a retired pediatrician who has early Alzheimer's. Rosh says improv class is a time to let go of expectations.
And to enjoy ourselves as we are and accept who we are in the here and now.
Rosh takes the improv class along with his wife at the Greenwood Senior Center in Seattle. And that's where the idea of this improv class started. Pam Nolte is an actor and co-founder of Taproot Theater Company. She created this class 15 years ago. That's when Pam got a phone call from a friend who worked at the senior center.
And said, Pam, would Taproot Theater Company be interested in doing an improv class up at the senior center? Because one of our students would really like to do some improv.
Now, Pam did not have an improv background, but she started researching improv and memory loss and where those two things overlapped. She also pulled from personal experience. Pam's mother had been a preschool teacher for many years, and then later in life developed memory loss.
So my mother, who died in 2003 with Alzheimer's was a preschool teacher. She could play like no one else I knew. She was Peter Pan, and all the kids in the neighborhood were leaping across the sofas in our living room, following her as the lost kids.
Inspired by her mom, Pam custom-tailored an improv class that focused on play and playfulness. And the class uses improv games that tap into long-term memories, and also memories based on sounds and smells, because people with early-stage memory loss often have an easier time accessing those kinds of memories. So Pam says instead of asking a student what they had for breakfast yesterday, she might say,
"Tell me about a favorite breakfast cereal when you were a kid." That's distant past memory. That's emotional memory. They remember those good feelings. They're deeply encoded. They're going to say, "Oh, Cocoa Pebbles," or, whatever that favorite is. And who did you like to sit with when you were eating your Cocoa Pebbles? "Oh, Dad. He was eating his Wheaties."
The class moves at a slower pace than a typical improv class, so everyone can follow along. And instructors might repeat instructions a few times. When students with memory loss cannot come up with an answer or forget what they're saying, no one jumps in. The instructors know that's something that happens a lot for these students in the real world. And in this class, people with memory loss are given space to take their time. As for what participants get from doing improv, experts say there are a lot of perks.
It keeps you socially engaged, and it teaches you how to keep moving forward and always thinking about going with the flow.
That's Dr. Danny Fisher with Harborview Medical Center. He works with patients suffering from memory loss and dementia. Danny says improvisation is an important skill for people dealing with those things. And going with the flow is something they can incorporate into their daily lives, especially when a lot of changes are coming at them fast. And it's refreshing for these folks to hear yes to their ideas, because in their day-to-day, they hear a lot of no's.
Oh man, there are so many ways. Your doctor may be very cautious and say no driving. Your doctors or your caregivers may be worried about you potentially falling for financial scams. And so you're told, no, you can't manage your finances anymore. There can be concerns about just sort of forgetting that you've left the stove on and safety concerns there. And now all of a sudden, no, you can't use the stove, you have to use the microwave.
Dr. Danny says all those no's can make it feel like your world is shrinking. So this class counters that. But mainly, Danny says improv class is a chance for students to do the number one thing we can all do to help keep our brains healthy. And if you think he's going to say, bang out a bunch of crosswords, he's not.
I think that brain games, memory games, I think crossword puzzles, Sudoku, I think that these are all great things if you enjoy them. But if you were to ask me, what's the thing that's going to keep my brain in the top shape? It's being socially engaged. It's talking with other people. It's having conversations and being in the moment.
Let's just do a group thank you for everybody. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Seth Thompson is one of the instructors at the class in Bellingham. He says teaching this improv class has been profound, especially when a student comes into class quiet or withdrawn, but soon opens up.
I was calling it magic at first, and I think that maybe that is the right word for it, because you're taking something that's just a pure artistic exploration and discovering that it has almost a medicinal quality to it. It's manna.
Manna, the bread that fell from heaven?
Something like that. Because you can tell that it fills people and it nourishes them in a way.
Seth says this technique is so purely interactive that it seems to wake something up inside of people with early-stage memory loss.
You can watch the light just kind of come back into somebody's eyes who maybe wasn't really present. And within an hour, they're contributing and they've got plenty to say.
Caregivers often participate in the classes, and Seth says they notice the change in their person too. In fact, this happens at almost every class, especially when it's someone's first time.
And you're like, wow, I think I'm seeing it, but then watching their care partner realize it as well. And then now I know it's real what I'm seeing, because you can see the confirmation in their eyes. And it can be pretty emotionally overwhelming to where I walk out of here and get about, 2 blocks away, and I can feel my eyes welling up sometimes.
After class, student Ryan L. Backton de Gaulier often lingers and chats with folks. Ryan says it's meaningful to connect with people in a similar boat, the memory loss boat.
You're not alone. And memory loss is a very lonely experience.
Ryan says here, for 1 hour each month, she feels good and feels a sense of belonging. And she can let her creativity and her silliness rip. I'm Kyle Norris.
Thanks for listening to Seattle Now. Our production team includes Caroline Chamberlain Gomez, Andy Hurst, Vaughn Jones, Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and Paige Browning. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you soon.